Oh, that guy speak English. Isn't it funny? Konnichiwa everyone, my name is Sage. Domo arigato watching this video today. You notice today me English a little different because title today what is Janglish. Janglish, me inventing language right now, bridges between Japanese and English because seems to me it's very difficult sometimes for Japanese to learn the English language. Why? A lot of Japanese people, English speaking, impossible or difficult thinking. That's something always me considering in the past. The reason, three, there is. Number one, linguistic distance between the English language and Japanese language. Translating from Japanese to English time. Always shifting word, flipping word, almost backward thinking from Japanese to English, save the subject. And this is something that happens when speaking English. Always have to think from the backward. And you know, you speaking, time always chasing after you. No time to think. It's communication alive. So it is very difficult for Japanese people. And this is number one. And number two, me thinking that most Japanese people perfectionist. So the first reason plus second reason equal very, very heavily overloading. See my point? So, number three, because of this, it is the combination of number one and number two. Difficult Japanese people speaking English. So the kind of English that I'm speaking today is very, very close to Janglish that I'm trying to invent. The other day, me YouTube doing and Google doing, research doing, watching many video, different types of English. Down there, Jamaica having patois, okay, and Philippines having Taglish, Singapore having Singlish. But why no Janglish? Okay, Janglish will have in English, but when saying Janglish, no derogatory term, no mockery term. Oh, that guy speak English. Isn't it funny? Isn't it cute? By the way, you think my Janglish cute? Like button. Okay? Thank you very much. Domo arigato. I came up with this idea, creating this video, that Janglish inventing very, very necessary and demanded in this world being internationalized. Lot better than being petrified, and lot better than being immobile, trying to speak English. Why not trying this video to see a little bit of what Janglish is like? Thank you. Enjoy. Now, at the first, me thinking it is very important for me to explain why it is very difficult for Japanese people to construct a sentence in English. And this is vice versa as well, from English speaking people to speak Japanese people as well. So what I want to explain here is that there is a linguistic difference between the two languages. Okay, number one, word order. You know, if you have learned Japanese a little bit, you should have been very, very amazed by the difference of the word order. It's almost thinking from backward. So it is the case with Japanese speaking people as well. It's almost thinking from backward. And number two, sentence structure. Totally different. In Japanese, usually subject or even objects, they are unstated. But how do we know who's doing it? What is the subject? Well, it is, remember, Japanese, very, very high contextual language. We have the agreement. What is the subject? What is the object? So you have to guess what the person is talking about. So in the other way around, for us Japanese, it is really a foreign idea to state the subject all the time, especially when you use the pronoun I all the time. It sounds like you are pushing your presence toward other people. You are, trying to make yourself sound very outstanding. And again, if you use the pronoun you all the time, it sounds very, very impolite. So this being the case, it is not very usual that Japanese people always state the subject and object. And let's move on to number 3. Definite and indefinite articles we Japanese people do not have. Even plural numbers, if you have a noun, it can either be a plural or singular. But Japanese language does not have that concept. As it shows here, nouns do not accompany with neither of them. But if we can successfully create the bridging language between Japanese, English, let's call it Janglish, and you just get rid of all the differences and these ideas. You just forget about verb to be, forget about the sentence structure, and forget about the definite and indefinite articles, and create this language Janglish. The process of interpreting from Japanese to English should be easier. It is a lot better than not communicating at all. You see, my English you understand so far. Sometimes you don't understand what I'm saying, but basically speaking, I think you understand 70% of what I'm saying so far. But then the concern is, okay, you speak Janglish, then wouldn't it be difficult to correct Janglish to English? No. It's not necessarily so. Because as long as the correcting process is systematical and mathematical and logical, the process of correcting the Janglish from English should not be so difficult. We go grade by grade to make it a proper, perfect sounding English. So, how do we wanting Janglish as an artificial language? Me no thinking Janglish becoming like Esperanto. Esperanto, not so bad, but Esperanto speaking only Esperantists. Okay, Esperantists speaking the Esperanto, Spanish people maybe understanding 20 or 30% or less than that. But me not thinking Janglish becoming like that language. Me thinking that Janglish becoming language understandable to many English-speaking individuals as well. So there are 3 ways that I want Janglish as a language being designed. Number 1, Janglish is an artificial language with the sentence structure as compatible as Japanese. Okay, so that means, as I have already explained to you, if you consider the difference here between Japanese and English, the grammar is very, very different. And the word order as well is really, really different. But I'm wanting to speaking language, word to word order similar to Japanese. So Japanese people can translate from Japanese to Janglish very, very easily. That is number 1. Very, very important here. Number 2, Janglish is an artificial language intuitively understandable to English speakers. Okay, For example, I am not saying anything bad about Esperantist or Esperanto, but please do not misunderstand me. This is no offending, okay? But I just want to point out that Esperanto, only Esperantist understanding possible. But no Spanish speaking people, no Italian speaking people. I just want to extend possibility for the Janglish language to many English speaking people. So when somebody speaks Janglish, this should be a language that is intuitively understandable to English speakers. So 60% or at least 60 or 70% understandable to an English speaking individual who heard Janglish for the first time. Let's move on to the third part. So now, this language, artificial language called the Janglish, should be systematically convertible into proper English. So, okay, this is at the point which is really different from a broken English. If you speak a broken English, it does not have a system there. That means you are speaking the language, as long as you can understand, the person can make the point across, that is fine. But you're not really thinking about how to correct your broken English to proper, acceptable English in the business scene or academic field. But I'm thinking that Janglish should be extended to a systematically convertible language into proper English. Now, my friends, let me demonstrate to you at first what a Janglish should look like. That is number one. Number two, let me demonstrate to you how to correct Janglish into proper, acceptable English. Okay. Now you have an English sentence here, okay, which says you shouldn't smoke here. Okay, you should not smoke here. It is impossible to translate word by word from this English to Japanese because, as I have already mentioned, the word order is very different. So what we do, okay, now let's take a look at how to say this in Japanese. ここではタバコを吸ってはいけません。Okay? Let me repeat it all over again. ここではタバコを吸ってはいけません。Okay? So, what I mean about speaking Janglish word by word translated here. タバコを吸ってはタバコ smoking いけません。prohibited. So, all the words together as a sentence, it should sound like this. Here, tobacco smoking prohibited. See? This is understandable, no? Let me repeat it all over again. Here, tobacco smoking prohibited. It's understandable. Here, another sentence there is. Okay, this is English. Let me read it to you in English at first. I must finish writing the essay by the end of December. Let me repeat it all over again. I must finish writing the essay by the end of December. Okay, let's change this language, this English, into Japanese. 12月の終わりまでに論文を書くのを終えなければいけません。Let me repeat it once more. 12月の終わりまでに論文を書くのを終えなければいけません。Okay. Now, what do I mean about word-to-word translation? Okay? Let me do it. Now, 12月の終わりまでに by December's ending 論文を essay 書くのを writing 終えな finishing ければいけません demanded. So all the phrases together combined as one, it should sound like this. By December's ending, essay writing finishing demanded. Let me repeat it all over again. By December's ending, essay writing finishing demanded. Okay, so I think this is 60% understandable. I have already made a social experiment. How much of this Janglish understandable? I picked up randomly American people, Australian people, and English people as well, and some people from other parts of Europe, along with some Filipinos. And they say this is 60% understandable. And there is a Switzerland lady saying this is not really understandable for the first time hearing, but twice saying understandable, possible. This way, the pronunciation is more or less like, Japanese pronunciation and Spanish pronunciation mixed together. But what if you change the pronunciation just like this? Probably this is a percentage 60% will increase up to 70% or 80%. Let me try. By December's ending, essay writing finishing demanded. Let me repeat it all over again. By December's ending, essay writing finishing demanded. See? Now, isn't it amazing that we have moved from this point to this point so easily, from Japanese to Janglish? There, you see? And now, let me demonstrate it to you how to correct Janglish into proper English. As I have already told you, this process is going to be by grade. Grade by grade, we correct from Janglish to proper English. So the first thing that we are going to cope with is the word order. You remember comparing Japanese and proper English, thinking in the different language is almost like thinking from backward. So this is something we have to deal with at first. Now, the previous sentence me rewriting done for you to adjust to the English writing system, it should look like this. By December's ending, the essay writing finishing demanded. Okay, now what we are going to do right now is to correct this language called Janglish into a proper, acceptable English. So there are some rules that we have to go through, and this is going to be the correcting process, going to be grade by grade. And let's divide the process into 3 or 4 parts. Now let us think about how to convert it into proper English. Rule number 1: verb must come before the object, not the other way around. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Now you have here essay writing finishing. This is something that if you are an English speaking person may sound very awkward here. So this is how you want to rewrite. You have essay writing. Okay, here you say essay writing, but remember verb must come before the object. So what does it mean? You have to flip around the word order to make it writing essay. Of course, it still sounds strange because it doesn't have the article, definite article or indefinite article, depending on the situation. So you have writing essay. But what you're going to do is to insert this word writing essay into here. So you have writing essay finishing. But it still sounds strange. Why? Because even after you have substituted this phrase into this sentence, you still have to remember verb must come before the object. Here's another thing. So you have writing essay finishing after substituting this phrase into this sentence. You still have writing essay finishing. But take a look at this. Writing essay combined as one is a noun. It's a noun. It's an object. And here, finishing as a verb with a gerund. So remember the first rule: verb must come before the object. That means you have to again flip around the order like this. Finishing writing the essay. It sounds a lot better this way. So as a consequence, it should sound like this: by December's ending, finishing writing essay demanded. This way, I would say 70% understandable. I have not done a social experiment concerning this, but I am sure this is 70% understandable. Now, let us move on to the second rule. The second rule is that any auxiliary verb must come before the verb, not the other way around. And this verb has to be converted into the original form. Okay, for example, we have the phrase combined together as finishing demanded. But here we have the gerund here, finishing, but you have to replace the ing. And demanded here, this is of course a passive voice, but you have to change it into an auxiliary verb such as should or must, or if you like, this is not an auxiliary verb, but you could also say have to. So in any case, if you want to say something attached to the verb as an auxiliary verb, this should come before the original verb. So it should look like this: must finish, or should finish, or if you like, have to finish. So all the phrase combined together, it should be sounding like this: by December's ending, must finish writing essay. Well, I think it is pretty much streamlined at this point, and I think it is about 80% understandable to English-speaking people. One of the very important things about the difference between the Japanese language and the English language is that Japanese language doesn't necessarily have to have the subject, because it is a highly contextual language in which both the speakers and the listeners do have some kind of a consent or agreement of the whole context. But it's not really the case with English. Basically, if you're speaking English, you have to say everything, especially the subject or object. Otherwise, you can't really make your point across. So the third rule is going to be that you have to state explicitly the subject or even object. So now we previously had the phrase must finish, but take a look at this. It is in lack of the subject. It can be I must finish, he must finish, Jack must finish, or could be anybody. So let's put an I here. I must finish. Okay, so all the phrases combined together, it will look like this: by December's ending, I must finish writing essay. It sounds better and very much streamlined, and I would say this is 90% understandable to English-speaking peoples. Now, in advance of talking about the last rule, of course, I will be talking about necessity of adding the articles. I think it would be a better idea to talk about the difference between the Japanese grammar and English grammar again in terms of the necessity of article. For example, okay, this is just an example though, okay? I believe you have a computer, or if you have an iPhone, whatever. Okay, if you have a computer, for example, and let your imagination grasp what it is like to time travel back to 300 years ago to England, for example. Okay, you are in that kind of situation. You are allowed to bring your computer 300 years ago in England. Liverpool, for example, you are holding this Mac computer, okay, for example. This man comes up to you and say, "Hey, where are you from?" And you said, "I'm from the future world. I'm having this computer," okay. And this, fortunately, this guy did not doubt you. And he says, "So, what is this stuff?" And you say, "Oh, this is a computer." And this guy says to you, "What is computer?" Okay? What is computer? And you say, "Oh, computer is so and so. You can do a whole bunch of things. You can create a video. You can communicate with people. You can create music, whatsoever." You explain all these things in English. And then this guy understood the whole concept of what computer is. Now he knows what a computer should look like. This guy wants to confirm that this is a computer that you're holding. So this guy says, "Also, this is a computer." And you say, "Yes." And this guy tells you again, "So what are you going to do with the computer?" So you have at first the word computer without an article, and secondly, you are asked by the phrase, "So this is a computer." Now you have the indefinite article. And thirdly, you have the definite article. So what are you going to do with the computer? So when you say computer, you have to, kind of have an agreement. What is computer? If it's just a concept, you might not need an article at all. And if you have an agreement about what it looks like and what it's used for, you might use an indefinite article. And you and the person have the agreement which particular computer you are talking about. You might probably use the definite article, the computer. Now, in Japanese, we do not have that kind of indicator to show we have the understanding or agreement of which object we are pointing at. So this is the kind of thing that is making the process of learning English very, very complicated. So what we want to do, rule number 4, even though it is very difficult for Japanese, if you can, you might study a little bit about the concept of what the article means. Okay? Number 4, add articles if necessary. Okay? This is double R, sorry. Okay, this is necessary. Okay? If necessary, add articles if necessary. So you can say, by the end of December, I must finish writing the essay. Or, if you take a look at this, by the end of December, this is an adverbial phrase. And this is the main sentence. I must finish writing the essay. But if you like, depending on which one you want to say at first, you can flip around the order of the adverbial phrase and the main sentence. Consequently, you might have the sentence just like this. I must finish writing the essay by the end of December, both of which I think it is 100% understandable. In any given spoken language, the important thing is that you get to communicate with people. And if you speak Japanese, and if you hesitate to speak English only because you do not speak perfect English, you are communicating 0%. This is where you communicating not available, because you hesitate to speak English, worrying about its correctness and perfection. Now, what you want to do is to leap forward to this direction, to Janglish, and you will be understood all of a sudden, just like this 60%. And this is incredible. And then if you speak a little bit of Janglish, then you just give it yourself a little bit of a modification to make it 70%. If you know a little bit of the English grammar and rules, you can increase the accuracy of your English command. And then from 70% to 80%, from 80% to 90%, meanwhile, from Janglish to proper English, you will be speaking broken English. But who cares, People speaking English, broken English worldwide, and nobody cares. Unless you are in a proper situation, and it is very wise for you to get yourself prepared for the proper situation, like in business scenes or in academic scenes. So, meanwhile, you can brush up your English to the level you can say that your English is proper. どうもありがとう. Thank you very much for watching my video. But before I finish, I would like to share with you a story of mine what I experienced when I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, I remember I was really afraid of going into the water. I was afraid of swimming. I could not swim at all. But one day I realized, by analyzing my mental state, psychologically speaking, I noticed why I was afraid to go into the water, because I was afraid of sinking in the water. And because of that, as a matter of fact, I sank in the sea. But one day I realized, no. I should not be afraid of jumping into the water and sinking in the water. Instead, I started to enjoy being under the surface of the water. And I realized my body starting to float on the surface of the water without me realizing it, very, very automatically. I think it is applicable to speaking English or any other languages as well. If you are afraid of making mistakes, you will never be able to speak the language. But please do not be afraid of speaking English like the way you do as Japanese. If you're Japanese, speak English like a Japanese, with a Japanese grammar, with a Japanese pronunciation and accent. There is nothing you have to be embarrassed about. If you're Japanese, your pronunciation, very beautiful, your grammar, very beautiful. There is so many things that we can share as Japanese. And here's another thing. Just right away, I started to float on the surface of the water. You will be able to float in the vastness of the ocean of the English language once you are not afraid of making mistakes, because what you have previous thought was mistakes will no longer be mistakes. You know what all these things are called? They are not mistakes. They are Janglish. Now, thank you for watching my video. And I'm thinking about creating other videos as well that will benefit you. Okay, see you later. Bye bye.